Welcome to another adventure. Today is a proper winter one and it's going to be hike and camp day. This weekend the Polar Vortex had reached the Swiss Alps, so the plan is to go deep into the valley, see how much snow there actually is, if there is enough to build a snow cave, and if not, I have with me a tarp just in case. Avalanche. And then using the tarp, I'm gonna make a shelter. Hopefully digging it a little bit into the snow to make it more spacious. Because of all the snowfall, the conditions in the mountains are a bit avalanchy. So today priority will be to find a spot which is as safe as possible and at least not directly under the slope. So in case the avalanche does come, it does not bury me in the night. I think it's... exactly. I think it's time to put on the snowshoes because the powder gets more and more soft and it's getting difficult to walk. So let's make a small break, put on the snowshoes, and then I'll continue. This is much better. I think the couple of absolutely necessary pieces of gear for winter, like wandering like this and also camping, is the snowshoes, that's for sure. Makes life much easier because I use way less energy to walk. But the second piece, which makes me absolutely invincible in these conditions, are gaiters, which is basically a Gore-Tex membrane which I wrap around the leg and the shoe, so no snow can enter the shoe even if I'm walking through a very deep mounds. looks pretty good. The snow is not deep at all, so I won't be unfortunately able to dig anything into it. But at least like this I can hang a tarp between the trees and tension it properly this way. I know the tarp will be anchored correctly, so even with this heavy snowfall it's not gonna collapse on me. And since it's very cold, it's around -12 degrees, the snow is not sticky at all, so I won't be repeating a mistake from the last time when I camped under the tree and all the snow was falling off it. So here I don't think there will be any snow falling whatsoever on me during the night. But before I decide, I'll check out the further line of trees, and if I won't find anything better, then I'll come back here and start pitching the tarp. Alright, further down the path, it didn't look like any good options. So I think I'm gonna be pitching up the tarp here. I think it's the safest option, especially that the wind is picking up. It's supposed to reach around 80 kilometers an hour today. So I'm not exactly sure if there are any larger trees like this in the flat ground further on, because the valley starts climbing upwards. And I have around 3 hours of daylight left, out of which 1 hour at least is going to be pitching up and making the camp. So I could theoretically still go half an hour up, but then I need to reserve at least half an hour to go down back here. And I don't think within half an hour walk in these conditions I'm gonna get very far, at least further away than what I can see. And from what I can see, there are not a lot of other possibilities, so I think this is the safest and the best bet for tonight. And also it's a pretty good location because all the floor of the valley is relatively flat, so if there will be any avalanches coming from these mountains here behind me, then at least they would stop before reaching me, or at least most of them would lose the momentum. So I think that's the best course of action here. There's not that much snow either, so I don't think there's a high risk of very heavy avalanches. So yeah, let's start building the camp. That's windy. Yeah, this is a bit of a fight with the wind. Okay, so the ground is completely frozen, but I think the biggest issue is that the tarp is just simply does not want to stay in place. So I might need to rethink this plan, because here between the trees, yes, the top line holds the tarp very nicely, but there is nothing that can anchor it to the ground. And in this wind I definitely want to have a closed shelter, so I kind of just make it like a open triangle, because otherwise, yeah, this will be unbearable at night. Alright, let's think what to do. So there are three options. I checked the weather forecast. It's supposed to be around 80 to 100 kilometers an hour wind all the way until the evening. At night it's supposed to die down, so if I make it until the evening, then it should be fine. The only problem is making it until the evening, so for that we have two other options. Either here I risk it a little bit and try to pin the tarp to the ground, but my gut feeling tells me that the pins are just not going to be holding to the ice, and the wind is just going to rip them out. Option two is trying to find another spot, which there's still a little bit of time to do that. I'll try to find another spot around here and see whether there's a place where I can pin the tarp a bit better. So not just between the two trees, but also some smaller bushes around, which can help me tie down the tarp. And option three is going back. And this is one of the options that I should also consider, purely for safety reasons, because once it gets dark and I will be cozy in the sleeping bag and the, well, sleeping clothes, and that point, if the tarp is blown away, then yeah, that's a bit problematic. That's not the situation I want to end up with. because that might start to be life-threatening in case, yeah, tarp rips away, and I will be losing heat very, very quickly in these temperatures and in these winds. So I'm gonna get hypothermia, and if I lose sense in my fingers, then I want to be able to fix a tarp, as simple as this, by myself. So I think I'm gonna try to use one of the pegs I have and nail it into the snow. Yeah, under the snow there's a sheet of ice actually, so let's see whether the peg even goes into that. If it doesn't, then I'm gonna try to see whether there's another spot, and if I don't find another spot, then I'm gonna just make the safety call, which is the most difficult one, and just go back. Yeah, it's better to be safe than sorry, and I love doing these adventures, but I want to be alive to make more of these adventures and not to make stupid decisions like staying in place despite the risks. So let's give it a shot. This doesn't work as well as I hoped. Actually, there's a pretty thick sheet of ice underneath the snow, which on one hand is great, because if I would get the peg through that, it would hold, I think, pretty nicely. On the other hand, I need to get it through it, and I don't have the ice screws or anything like that to actually get the peg into the ground. And as you can see, the wind is not easing off. Okay, let me quickly check whether the other spots also have ice. Yeah, that's ice. Now let me show you. All of this is just solid ice. So yeah, getting a pegs on this, that will be difficult. Alright, that's not the good news, because that means I need to dismantle everything and try to find another spot. I have a bad feeling that everywhere is ice, so in this case I would have to find a spot where not only I have the two larger trees between which I can hang the main rope for the tarp, so they can't be too flimsy, otherwise the entire thing will just fly away or just will flex, and then yeah, it's gonna be very flappy and extremely noisy in like 80-100 kilometers an hour wind. And finding another spot is of course another option. Problem being, oh, here you can see the ice actually. I love this. It's just a layer of ice. Now if this would be deep enough, I could try to make a shelter, but yeah, that's not just deep enough. Which sucks, because this is a really nice spot and I'd love to stay here for the night. Which means I should find a place where I can hang a tarp. So let's see if there are any alternative spots which offer a bit more anchoring for the corners of the tarp. So let's see here. Maybe on this side there is something a bit better. It's a bit tricky walking here because there's some big boulders. It's basically a bed of a river. Like, this wouldn't be a bad spot right? Because I can hang the tarp between this tree and this tree, and I can use that tree there as an anchoring, right? So it's not that bad. But the problem here is it's bouldery. This here is just a big boulder. It's not flat at all, so there's no way I can just lay down in here. Same, there's some roots. So it would have been nice, but it's not flat. Yeah, there's a sheet of ice here as well. Yeah, this also doesn't look that good. Yeah, icy boulders. So that place was no good. Let's see what's here one more time. Whoop. This ice on which I just stood cracked. Yeah, this is all as well, everything ice. So I could theoretically pitch a tarp between this tree and this one, but then we come back to the point where there's nothing on this side that I can anchor the tarp to. And here we have already the riverbed. Here it's just too bushy, and here are the two other slightly larger trees, but the space between them is small. And this is all ice as well. I mean, this is barely enough. But again, the problem is anchoring it here on this side, and I have to anchor it because in this winds, if I don't anchor the corners correctly, it will just blow away. Now the wind died down a little bit, but I can see it's already grey there, which means the wind is picking up with the new layer of snow. And here I can see the ice actually broke. See? And this is how thick this ice is. So also maybe this is not the best idea camping here, because I'm pretty sure this sheet of ice, it's pretty uniform around the camping area here. And if I lay on it and it gets warmer in a tarp, and I warm up the ground with my body heat, then at some point it could fall through that. And of course that would not be that life-threatening, but it would not be pleasant, that's for sure. Because if there are any frozen branches like this underneath, or stumps, or maybe a branch which was cut down and with a thin stump left, then yeah, I don't want to be impaled. Alright, wind is picking up again. think I lost something like about half an hour of daylight browsing around here. And even though it doesn't make me happy about it at all, I think I need to make a safety call and just decide to come back today. Right, let's pack the tarp, put on the snowshoes and head back. I think it's time to go back. Hopefully not reaching the civilization after it's too dark, because walking in a blizzard and a headlamp you can't see anything. And without a headlamp, well, you won't see anything either, so yeah, let's go. It is what it is, unfortunately. Sorry guys. It's a real shame that I couldn't camp tonight, but at least it took you for a nice walk around here, because it is beautiful, like, no doubt about that. When I was leaving home today in the morning, I was more worried about the avalanche conditions and that there will be just simply too much snow and I won't be able to properly get into the mountains. But I never thought that what would stop me is lack of good camping spot, or rather frozen ground preventing me from securing the tarp. That has never happened before. But while I'm in this beautiful place, how about you subscribe to the channel to see more of the adventures? Alright, I had successfully reached civilization before the nightfall, so I suppose there's nothing else left to say than see you in the next adventure. Cheers!